this tune. Clarissa is back again at the same time next week. We've got a phone in today and a video camera up for grabs. We're asking you, if you made a film, what would you make it all about? Oh, some upstaging going on.
That's Doreen, the phone lady. In fact, talking of the phones, let's get to the phone, shall we?
Okay.
Let's say hello to Elizabeth Stables from York. Hello.
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 Oh, hello, Elizabeth. What sort of film would you make and who would be in it?
I would make films with my teddies at night time to see if they came to life.
To see if they do come to life. I think they do, Elizabeth. I can speak teddy bear language, so I'll give a little message to the teddy bears. Wum-dalla poo-poo. Wum-dalla poo-poo. Here we go.
I'm not convinced about that. Elizabeth, thank you very much for phoning.
Yeah,
we'll send you a CD.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks,
Elizabeth. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ooh, saying goodbye there. The lines are now closed this afternoon in our phone and fax in, but we will be reading out a few more suggestions a little bit later on. Don't forget, Blue Peter is still to come, and right now it's time to find out what's happening in the world of news. Here's Newsround with Chris and Kate.
The animals blasting off on a space mission.
And the tornadoes devastating the southern United States.
Hello, and first, Space Shuttle Columbia will lift off in just a few hours' time on its latest mission, carrying some unusual additions to the crew.
As well as astronauts, the shuttle will be packed with more than 2,000 creatures, including mice, rats, fish and snails. They're being sent into orbit for research into the effects of long periods of space travel on people and will blast off from Cape Canaveral in Florida. Here's more from Lizo.
When the shuttle takes off, the 7 members of the crew will have to share the spacecraft's limited size with a group of unusual shipmates. A huge onboard laboratory the size of a bus is carrying a zoo load of animals and insects. The astronauts will carry out a series of experiments on the collection, which includes more than 200 fish, 100 snails and thousands of crickets. They're hoping to discover how living in the weightless environment of space affects animals. Scientists plan to use the information to try to understand how space travel could also affect astronauts, who have to stay in space for long periods of time. For example, living on the International Space Station, which is due to go into service early in the next century, or travelling to and from Mars, a journey that could take years to complete. It's not the first time that animals have been sent into space. In the early days of the space program in the 1950s, the Russians and Americans sent animals into orbit to see if space travel was safe for humans. This latest mission is costing almost $100 million and is due to last 2 weeks.
Other news, and staying with space, the European space probe Ulysses will complete its first orbit of the Sun today after an 8-year journey. During its mission, it's mapped the surface of the Sun and has given more information about solar winds, which can affect the Earth's weather.
The Prime Minister, Tony Blair, is flying to the Middle East today to add his support to the search for lasting peace there. He says he'll give advice based on his involvement in the recent Northern Ireland peace agreement.
And Chelsea are through to the final of the European Cup Winners' Cup. Last night they beat the Italian team Vicenza 3-1 in a thrilling match, coming back from 1-0 down.
Now to the United States, where tornadoes are continuing to cause devastation and disaster. At least 11 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in the latest severe storms which tore across southern states. Arkansas and Tennessee were the worst hit.
In America, this has been the deadliest tornado season in 15 years. So far, more than 100 people have lost their lives. In Nashville, Tennessee, roofs collapsed, trees were ripped out, and glass blew through the streets. People had to run for their lives. The city has been declared a disaster area. Elsewhere, one woman was at home with her daughter when the lights went out.
I ran in the bedroom, I jumped on top of her and I saw the roof blow off.
America gets more tornadoes than anywhere else in the world, but this time they're particularly violent and are affecting more people than usual. Weather forecasters are blaming the El Niño weather pattern, which warms up parts of the Pacific Ocean. Tornadoes only occur when there's a thunderstorm. Warm, moist air is sucked upwards and passes cold air flowing downwards. The mixing air creates a spiralling funnel, and when it reaches the ground, it spins faster, sucking up objects, a bit like a vacuum cleaner. More severe storms are expected this weekend, though the good news is that the El Niño weather pattern is expected to fade away soon, bringing hope that so too will the tornadoes.
Now to more weather problems, this time back home. Parts of the Midlands and South East England remain on flood alert today, with more heavy rain expected this weekend. One of the worst hit areas so far has been Northamptonshire. Chris has been speaking to the children whose homes have been badly damaged in Northampton.
More than 1,500 homes in the Northampton area were affected. Many children started their Easter weekend being rescued as their streets turned into a flowing river. Although most of the floodwater is now drained away, the nightmare is far from over. Residents in this particular area are still receiving flood warnings from the authorities, and their homes have been badly damaged and their possessions completely destroyed. Some families have now started to clear away damaged furniture and belongings, but they've been told it could be months before they can live in their homes. Walls and floors have to dry, and the floodwater contains sewage, adding a health risk. The local school was badly damaged too. Police now patrol the empty streets at night following a series of burglaries. Lindsay Smout is lucky. Her family has already been told it's safe to return home.
The water came up to here, and the whole house was nearly filled with water, and it really smelled, and you wasn't allowed to touch anything because of all the sewage.
Niall and Kerry Glennie and their parents won't be able to live in their house for at least 4 months. The bottom floor was submerged in just over a metre of water. Well, your videos are ruined, Niall. What do you think of the house now that you've returned to have a look at it?
It's wet. Most of the carpets are outside.
Everything's ruined, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel?
Sad.
Throughout the flooded areas, families have complained they weren't warned about the floods early enough. Flood warnings are the job of the Environment Agency, who have since admitted they were caught off guard.
We had over a month's rainfall in some places in under 24 hours, and that is far, far greater quantity than many of the river systems can cope with.
The Environment Agency are now carrying out an investigation to see how they can do things better in future. And finally, to a cafe where you really don't get value for money. A new restaurant is doing a roaring trade with a bizarre new menu, platefuls of nothing. Yes, absolutely nothing is on the menu at the Cafe Like in Tel Aviv in Israel.
Nothing comes for free at the unusual restaurant. Even a nice, refreshing cup of nothing costs about £1.50. Amazingly, customers seem to like it. They say the atmosphere is great, and one couple have even booked it for their wedding reception. So, what would you order?
Nothing, I suppose.
Just as well. Just as well.
And